Hey everyone, and thank you very much for joining the AstrumDrive podcast. Today we're going to do a review of our Sprint 2. So we're going to see the Sprint review document. And my name is Ivailo Vasilev, and this morning we're joined by Nelson. He's the head of our physics department. So Nelson, please go ahead. The meeting is yours. Can you please give us a short overview with what did we achieve in the last sprint?
Okay, thank you, Vilo. Good morning, everyone. Let's take a brief look on the what we did during the last sprint. We did very nice things. We finished very nice things that we were doing. We started in the previous sprint. So basically, we have been working in this all this year. We finally finished studying matching conditions for exterior and interior social metrics, and we found all these equations that gives you how to match extrinsic curvature generated by space-time outside and then space-time inside. It was very nice. We make a very nice notes that you can find if you like in the and you can ask us to share with you. Basically, we calculated the first, the second fundamental forms, and we obtained the induced metrics in these coordinate systems, which are the exterior and interior. Then you impose junction conditions, and you found some relations in between the metric coefficients. And these relations, you can use it then to on Einstein's equations, the Einstein field equations, and you evaluate those on the hypersurface. This is the hypersurface that is basically this sphere or bubble that you were thinking about, and you can determine them from there all the physical parameters. And we showed that works very nicely. We learned and we implemented everything in Mathematica notebooks. It was quite nice. On the other hand, also we finally made our way to calculate extrinsic curvature into different directions. Both, of course, are equivalent, but the calculation is quite different, and you can have different readings for those two. And one of them was just as calculating in this previous example, we calculate precisely just defining the vectors that are normal to the hypersurface, and from there you start calculating explicitly contractions with these vectors, and this gives you basically the uh, the extrinsic curvature. The other way is using the covariant derivative that is defined also in terms of these normal vectors, but then you have to correctly use the covariant derivatives, and we made it. We made it. We implemented both in Mathematica, of course, and we proved that this works using a couple of different metrics, Friedman, Robinson, Walker from one side, and also with the Schwarzschild metrics, looking at the previous example. On the other hand, this was done basically because we needed, in this case, to reproduce some part of Notarius paper. This part is to see how is the expansion volume element, which is fundamental in Notarius papers because it's a part of the formulation in the ADM way of looking at general relativity, which is slicing the space-time into a space slice, and each space slice is in a given time. So in that form, you construct these metrics. It's the way that Natarius did, it's the way that Alcubierre did in his original work, although he was thinking about more inspired in something else, more in like a, as he himself said, is in cosmological models, which is very nice because looks pretty much like a Friedman Robinson Walker in a sense. Also, we review it, which is some specific concepts that we needed, mathematical concept basically, that comes from differential geometry, of course, to look into Cauchy equation. The Cauchy equations is an equation that relates the uh, energy, density, and I mean this matter part that you have in Einstein's equations with what happens geometrically on the surface, which are projections, again, all related with the extrinsic curvature. And we studied a way to to derive this equation, sorry, and to obtain this Godot's equation. At the end, we find out that this requires a lot of time. I mean, this is not something that you don't learn differential geometry just in one step. So we basically kept some of the most important concepts that we find out were useful in this time, and we will keep working on this because okay, we know a bit, but we felt like the notation is important. It can lead you in different directions, especially when we think about the geometry, and also it's quite important to get this feeling of new ways of approaching this type of problem, and and also we also take a deeper step into the ADM formulation for general relativity. We found a lecture, very nice lecture, and this in this lecture, this basically he's explained all these details about the you have the shift vector, you have the expansion volume element, and you have this shape form, and all these things together. But you can put it in a way where you basically extract the information of the geometric information. One thing that's quite important is what type of observer you are looking into this. An observer is this guy that is looking at what's going on with the geometry here. And all the works that Natario and Alcubierre did, they rest on this frame, which is observers are in a free fall, which is like the most obvious observer that you can think of. And these observers, they call it Eulerian observers, are the ones that can see what the effects of the warp. In fact, this is the ones that these are the ones that Notarius use it. And what we think, what we're understanding now, and we understand better than before, is like, okay, if you change these observers, a lot of things changes, which is quite important. You basically obtain. This is how general relativity works. It's all observer dependent. So every observer will see a different physics. It will see different effects. It happens when you think even in event horizons. So in this case, it's quite interesting that how this connects with all the propositions that Darius did, and also how it connects with a nice article that we are scheduled to study during the next few days, which uses a different type of observer, some modifications, and this is quite nice because you obtain corrections and you solve some problems, although you have another ones. But for instance, this you get now positive energies, which is something that is we will speak about a bit more later. But this is a large problem, a big one problem of the problems in the warp drive approach, uh, which is basically that violates a strong energy condition. And this is something that in this sprint, in fact, right now is we're studying these details. Uh, Basically, that's what, what we have done so far.
Awesome. Thank you very much. This is really good overview. So just want to point out that all the research which we're currently doing, we are putting it in mathematical notebook. So if we change something later, all the equations are going to change automatically. And I just want to point out the size of the effort, which is this mathematical notebook. It is huge notebook right now. It has almost 3,000 rows. So we're very careful and diligent of updating this mathematical notebook with all of our findings and equations. So we're doing that in order to automate the process of calculating the warp drive metrics.
Yeah. In fact, this yes, the mathematical notebook is growing every day. Every day we add something new, and sometimes we remove some things. Also, part of
Right.
the job.
And also, in many cases, we do the equations by hand just to be 100% sure that we have a very strong foundation. Because in the last few sprints, maybe in the next one or two sprints, we're going to finish our overview for everything important which is currently done in the field. So after that, we're going to start with implementing our own contributions and our own ideas. But for that, we want to make sure that we have very, very strong foundation. Because of that, we put everything in mathematical notebooks, and also at the same time, we're doing many of the calculations by hand, just to be 100% sure that we're correct. And Nelson, do you have anything else to add for the sprint review?
Well, not really. Just please, if you have any questions, I will be thrilled to answer as much as I can. And if you have any ideas, please let us know.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Nelson. And thank you everyone who is listening this podcast. And if you guys like what we do, please support us. You can do this on Patreon or like and share the video. With that, again, thank you very much for listening, and let me wish to all of you to have a very nice and successful day.